This is for you if you are constantly trying to change someone in your life, especially your parent. If you don't agree with their behavior and you keep trying to show them that your perspective of life and your beliefs are better than theirs. This video will give you everything you need to know about changing other person and creating change in your life and in the relationship with others. In the end of this video will be a spiritual, energetical explanation of everything. So make sure you watch till the end. I want to start sharing a story that happened to me 2 years ago because I was exactly in that space with my father. So 2 years ago, I was on the phone with my dad and I was confronting him about his behavior. I was telling him how much I disagree with what he has done and how much I am ashamed of his behavior. And now I know that subconsciously I was trying to shame him. I wanted him to feel bad of his action, and I wanted him to realize by shaming him and pointing fingers how wrong he was. And I had to confront him because I felt like I reached my limit and I just couldn't sit and watch what is he doing with his life. So I told him that his behavior was wrong and that it's time for him to change. And his response shocked me. He said, "I'm not going to change. This is just who I am. And I don't need other people telling me that I need to change." When he said, "This is who I am," truly like something inside me broke down. It felt like he just shattered my own vision of him being the father I always wanted. Because the inner girl within me wanted him to change and be the father that I need even now. I felt truly this deep sadness and pain because in that moment, it destroyed the belief that I had about who he could be. And I realized something very, very painful. We carry so many ideas about our parents or partners, about who they could be, how they could change, and how they could finally be the parents or partners we need or we needed. We still secretly hope that people can change, and we give them endless opportunities to change, expecting they will become what we need. It took me a long time to understand that you can't change someone who doesn't want to change, no matter how good of the potential they have. I want you to understand that having or going into the relationship with intention that they will change one day is not even in being in a relationship with them. You're in a relationship with yourself and your fantasy, your own fantasy of who you can love. And that person next to you is just a physical body. And you're just projecting your dreams on them. And in this video, I want to explain how our behavior harm other people more than they harm us. And I'm going to talk about parents for now because we have so many expectations about our parents and we want them to change. And there is so much of suffering of how we want to fix the relationship with the parents and how we expect them to be something or someone else in our lives who we need. And I want to take you back to their life to understand. And, even this, if you are going to understand, you need to embody this as a truth, as a feeling, as a state. Understanding doesn't just mean that you are healed. It is just an information that needs to be processed. And maybe I should do another video about this. But let's go first to your parents. The first thing we need to understand is this. The parents are just human with children. They were humans before they had you. They had their beliefs. They had their habits, their wounds, their problems. They were living their lives long before you were born. And suddenly they had a child. They expected it or it was unexpected. When you are a child or adult, we expect from our parents to take responsibility for bringing us to this world. And therefore, we think parents should magically transform into emotionally aware, responsible, into a patient, into self-reflective parents. But nowhere is written or proven that having a child makes someone automatically emotionally mature and responsible. But we tend to take it very personally if they are not that way. And we blame them and we want them to be that way. Becoming parents simply means you are the same human who now has a child. Nothing magically rewires your emotional capacity overnight. And of course, parents who are now self-aware, they understand that responsibility of bringing a child into this world and making the best possible things to bring the child. But many parents, especially the older generation, didn't grow up with the emotional awareness we talk about today. They didn't grow up with the mindset that we have today or the knowledge around us. And that's sad, but it's also a reality. And it doesn't excuse their behaviors, don't get me wrong. But our parents raised us with the same habits, beliefs, and emotional patterns they already had. And yes, they couldn't do any better. They often never change these patterns. And that can be so triggering because with the information that we have today and you have today, you want to teach them, you want to show them how is it to live better life. You maybe even see them suffering and you want to change the way they see themselves, they see the world, they see you. You want to end their suffering because you love them, but you mostly love them because you want to get something from them. And that is the feeling of appreciation, of love, of acceptance. Most of the time, we want to change other people because we want to get something from them, not because we want them to be better, because we need something from them that will fulfill and satisfy the hole that we have in our soul. And if they don't change, it can be very triggering for us because so many times we look at them and think, how can you behave this way? How could you hurt me like this and not seeing it? And how can you behave like this having all these responsibilities? I want to talk about why change is so hard and why it doesn't come easily. The reason many people don't change is it's not always because they don't care or they feel like there is nothing to change. Sometimes it's because change is extremely difficult for your nervous system and for your ego. Real change creates identity crisis. Think about it. If someone changed completely who they are now, who would you be without your pain, without your trauma, without the identity you've built around your struggles, your beliefs, and your habits? You can even ask yourself, who would you be without your wounds, without your story, without the identity you have created your entire life? Who would you be? This question or this imagination of who you could be is terrifying to your brain because the brain isn't designed for growth and change. The brain is designed for survival. It wants and it needs predictability. It wants familiarity, even if the familiarity is painful, uncomfortable. Your brain would rather choose known discomfort and pain than unknown future. And there is why so many people suffer in this world. Change requires self-awareness, emotional work, and willingness, but not everyone is ready for that. Change and choosing to change really brings identity crisis, survival threats, loss of control, loss of a family member, the ego death. And ego death simply means that if I change now, if I choose to change, that means that I'm admitting that I was wrong, that I may have hurt people in the past. And not everyone is ready to face this kind of truth because your ego always wants to keep you right and good. So admitting to change and admitting that you are doing things wrong in the past and that you may have hurt people in the past, that is very scary for your ego. Change truly feels like a threat to your nervous system. Change removes predictability. It creates uncertainty, and uncertainty creates stress and anxiety. And anxiety that you may lose something, that you may lose a relationship they've been there for all your life, especially inside the families. This is the most horrifying thing. If I change in any way, we often choose to have an unhealthy relationship with our family member or partner because we have a strong need to belong. And we feel like we shouldn't leave because that is a threat to the whole family. When you change, sometimes your family or your partner doesn't understand you anymore. You can become the black sheep, misunderstood, judged, shamed, criticized. Your brain predicts all of this. And that is why you choose to stay in the same old familiar. And one thing I can say about family should be always to a higher standard, not to the lower one. Because the relationship with your family are the most important long-term and impactful relationship that you create in your life. So if your parents have built a life that feels stable, even with relationships that are not supportive, toxic, and are most likely unhealthy, they won't see a reason to change because it's stable, because that's familiar. They may not be happy, but they feel safe. And to the nervous system, the safety is everything. Stop falling in love with someone's potential. One of the biggest traps we fall into is that we fall in love with the potential of that person than their reality. Your inner child still craves the parent you always wanted. There is that deep wound that feels like emptiness, and you may just want to fill it up with love and acceptance. And even as an adult, there may be still part of you hoping maybe one day they will change. Maybe one day they will say the words I needed to hear. We would even wait and hope on their dying bed they will share their feelings, that they will give us what we need. But sometimes we fall in love with the possibility of someone instead of the reality who we think they are. And I want you to sit with this. Sometimes we fall in love with the possibility of someone instead of the reality of who they are. And that simply means that we are not accepting them for who they are right now. We are not seeing them for who they are right now. And therefore, they will never feel that we love them too, because we just wishing for them to be someone else. And we are choosing not to see for who they are. You know, we can say they will be amazing if they will go to therapy. I believe that I can change them. You know, we can even say, oh, I believe I can change them if I can have just one honest conversation with them. We even plan that conversation to happen. We imagine that moment of connection, the opportunity. And when is that moment about to happen, to have that conversation with them? Something happens. They cancel. They avoid it. They shut down. They are not present with you. They get triggered or they go defensive. And suddenly, your whole world crashes again. I've experienced this so many times. I remember being excited to go home and spend quality time with my dad, because quality time is my love language. And then I've arrived and he was drunk or sleeping and there was no conversation possible. And I was just sit there and wondering, why can't I just have a parent the way other people do? How can I make him change? Or even better, what can I do he would love me and be willing to change for me? And this is a beautiful manipulation because mind plays a beautiful tricks on us. One thing that took me a while to accept was that if someone has shown you their patterns for years, it's not a phase, it's their data. And you can't erase data with one simple conversation. If someone has lived this way for 50 years, one conversation from you won't change them as much as we wish it could. And I mentioned earlier about trying to shame my father. And I want to bring it up again because shaming people doesn't make them better. Even research shows that shaming people lower their self-esteem and leading them to engage in more of the behaviors that you don't want. So shaming or blaming is not an effective tool for anything. It's effective only for you to make you feel better that you are right. So the question is, what do we have to do with all this garbage? How do we make people change? Acceptance. That's how you make them change. And lots of people hear the word acceptance and can resist it because how can I accept somebody who is doing this? How can I accept if the person treats me that way? But that is not what acceptance means. Acceptance is simply recognizing reality as it is. It means not putting an expectation on other people. It means simply seeing someone clearly, not for who you wish they were, not for who they could be, but for who they actually are. And when you accept that, you are freaking free of pain and expectation and unfulfilled dreams. And that is just so beautiful. It's like you stop expecting water from a dry well because you see them for who they are. You see the reality of these people. If someone shows you that they are emotionally unavailable, why are you calling them during your worst moments? Because you're waiting that they will change and they will show you compassion and love. If someone constantly minimizes your feelings, why are you sharing your deepest vulnerabilities with them? Because you love to feel small and dismissed? Or because you want them to see you and give you the thing that you need from them? That's not a connection. That's a repeated disappointment. That's a manipulation. That is expectation. And it is going to disappoint you. And I want to tell you that managing relationship and looking into these things doesn't mean that you have to cut people off or do something. It just means adjust your expectation. Be honest with yourself. Be real with yourself. Lower the emotional stakes. Protect your energy. When we keep expecting from other people to change, we waste so much of our energy. So much. Acceptance gives you peace. So stop letting other people get under your skin when they are simply being themselves. When people don't change, you can change your reaction to them. Let that sit for a while. When people don't change, you can change your reaction to them. It is your side of your garden you need to take care of. You cannot control other people's growth, only your own. But you can control how much access they have to your peace and to your garden when you stop trying to change them and you start changing of how you interact with them and what you expect from them. This is going to be the most important thing you're going to hear in this video. Every person on this planet, even your parents, has the right to live their life the way they choose. And if I tell you that letting go of that need for them to change is actually the most powerful way to force shift in a relationship. Energy is everything. Every relationship is connected by invisible wires or spiritual cords. And when you sit across from your parent or your partner and you are thinking to yourself, why can't they just be better? Why they aren't who I needed them to be? Or what the hell is wrong with them? They feel that. Not consciously, but energetically. Even if you don't say a word, they feel your resistance towards them. They feel your judgment. Energetically, you are sending them a message that says, I don't love you for who you are. I love fantasy version of you that doesn't exist. I love potential you can have, but I don't love you because you are not who I want you to be for me. If you're in a relationship with them just because you believe they change, that means there is no relationship between you two. When you stop expecting them to change, you release them from the pressure of your judgment. When you truly accept them for their flaws, their silence, their mistakes, their invisible cords go loose. They suddenly feel free from your expectation. This is all subconsciously and energetically. But for the first time, they will feel unconditionally loved by you. And that is where transformation happens. The paradox is that when people feel truly accepted for who they are, they finally have the energetic room to breathe, to reflect, and believe it or not, to actually change. Because when we're putting that constant pressure, even if it's subconscious one, the constant wishing that they will be different, the constant pushing, I want this from you, by doing nothing but your own work, you change the entire atmosphere of the room. Giving space and acceptance does give you a peace and freedom. And to the other person gives a rest and energetic space to breathe and to actually allow the change to come in without any pressure from you. And we know that the love always wins. Acceptance, letting them be who they are, although they are never been for you who you want them to be. Don't live in a fantasy that people will change. Live in a reality, because that is where the change happens. I hope this helped you. Share your thoughts in the comment, and I will see you in the next light bulb moment.